You're listening to the Decentralized Talk Podcast, your crypto connection.
Decentralized Talk. Decentralized Talk.
All right, guys. Welcome to another outstanding episode of the Decentralized Talk Podcast, the best crypto podcast for insights while you search Amazon for a white elephant gift for your overly aggressive brother-in-law. This is the place where we break down crypto happenings and general bullshit and current events influencing the crypto market and crypto culture. We are growing our audience every week. We are so proud that everybody continues to listen to us for some ungodly reason. And we want you to subscribe on your favorite platform. So take the time to go to your favorite platform. We are on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Music, Spotify, passively again on YouTube. We're going to change that. We're trying to figure out how to integrate more into YouTube.
I'm still trying to figure out what this whole YouTube thing is. Is it a tube, like a literal tube, a cylinder tube?
He confuses YouTube and RedTube too often.
Oh, so it's not the same thing. Okay. Yeah, you learn something new every day.
It's a different place. Just different membership rules.
Different age restrictions.
Different age restrictions, yes. Topic of the day's show is WTF, ETF, IRA, index funds, and mutual funds. Are they good? We got the hard-hitting questions here.
Are they good?
They are good.
I'm familiar with an ETF and an IRA. I'm not familiar with a WTF.
No, it's like YouTube.
Are they good? The question reminds me of Happy Gilmore.
Is they okay?
Is they okay? How they be?
What do?
There's one problem, Happy. You're not any good. I saw those finger paintings you did and they suck. I'm just playing, babe. Why don't you come back and I'll give you the old kissy, wissy, smoochy, woochy. I wanna kiss you all over. And over and again. Dun, dun, dun. To the night closes.
Wow.
We've already lost 75% of our listeners.
Yeah, but the 25 that stuck around know what the fuck is up. And
yeah.
I guarantee
you guys aren't quitters.
That stuck around, we're going, to the night closes in. Are they good? What impact will they have? Will they get approved? Backed. That's actually backed. Put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. So, okay. All right. So to start the show, WTF, ETF, IRA, index funds, mutual funds. Okay.
So
I
many
think
funds.
the main topic is going to be ETFs for sure, right?
ETF.
I mean, it's kind of been the main topic for the last 6 months.
Elephant tickle fights.
I mean,
It's what
Also on RedTube.
it's what a lot of crypto enthusiasts have been anticipating, waiting for pretty much all year.
yeah.
Because that's their speculative. That's like the last speculative grasp that they have right now is everybody's just hoping, well, if there's an ETF, moon time, Lambo, everybody's getting Lambos. I don't
To
know
me,
if it'll
the
necessarily
ETF
go down like that,
is inevitable.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, all this stuff is inevitable. I mean, and that's the cool part about knowing about crypto at this point and being invested in the market at this point. I think the ETF is inevitable. I don't know if it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to.
First of
turn
all,
into.
for those listeners that don't know, maybe we should just kind of briefly explain an ETF.
Well, you can go back and listen to our ETF episode if you don't know, but we should give a recap. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, screw all you who didn't listen to it. We're just not going to tell you, and you will never know.
Google it.
Google it.
Elven Turkey Fondue.
Have y'all heard of that website that's it's like LMGTFU or
Yeah,
something?
let me Google that for you.
Let me Google that for
Yeah,
you.
it's hilarious.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's like when somebody says, "What's YouTube?" and you can send them a link, and the link is basically a GIF of. Let me Google that for you. It just brings up a Google page. The mouse moves to the search bar, and they type in "what is YouTube," and then hits return, and then it shows the Google results. So it's just somebody Googling it for you.
Yeah,
Just somebody being an asshole.
Yeah.
exactly.
That is true. It's almost like, I mean, it's weird. It's like when you're having a conversation with somebody and you ask a question, there's almost no point in asking, like polling the room. You just might as well
Yeah, everybody just bust out their phones.
not ask it and Google it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so what is an ETF? Just go. So, an ETF is not an electronic traded fund. This is the biggest thing. It's not an electronic traded fund. Prater, what's an ETF?
It's an electronic traded fund.
Wrong again.
Still wrong.
No, I swear that's what it is, right?
Google it.
Google said.
Somebody send Prater one of those Google things.
Traded fund. Well, I mean, basically all it is a mutual fund or an index fund. It's the same thing.
It's an exchange traded fund.
Yeah. Oh, did I not say that?
So,
did I just...
Okay. So for those out there who don't know what an ETF is broadly and how it differs from a mutual fund. So a mutual fund, most people know, is a diversification protocol by which it invests your money into different sectors of the market. So it puts it into a little bit of tech, a little bit of industry, a little bit of minerals, a little bit of it picks different sectors and tries to diversify your money. So that way, the idea is that as the market grows broadly, if tech has a huge problem and you have 90% of your funds invested in Twitter, then you're not going to get hammered. You'll take a small hit, and then some other things will move around, and people will move that money around. But an ETF is similar to a mutual fund in that it's multiple stocks typically,
Mm-hmm. But
they're all related.
Yeah.
So it would be like, so if you had let's say you had an energy ETF.
Not necessarily though.
Typically, well, I'm just saying, typically when you see an ETF, if you bought an energy ETF, that's how you typically see them. You see them in a sector. So it's like they would have some LNG, it would have some BP, it would have some GE stocks in there. So it would be a class of energy stocks, so you could diversify within a sector.
Yeah.
Typically.
But then
I guess
you also have like that. You have the S&P ETF.
Yeah. So you could make an ETF out of
Anything.
Out of anything you wanted to, but typically it follows it follows a specific pattern.
Yeah.
Whereas a mutual fund is going to be something that is purposely out of sector, out of pattern.
Yeah. And I think we should hit on, the differences between mutual funds and index funds here in a minute. But so why do you guys why is the crypto space so obsessed with an ETF right now?
It's the first fucking word that became large. So honestly, and this is truly how I feel. If an ETF, which it was, an ETF seemed to be like out of all the different options of ways to get cryptocurrency mainstreamed, ETF I think showed the most promise at one moment. And just like so many things in crypto, it's filled with just chock filled with ideologues. And so somebody said the word ETF, and then somebody else said ETF. we're going to do an ETF. We're going to do an ETF. And then people are pushing this and pushing this and pushing this. And then what's the term when you will something into existence?
A self-fulfilling prophecy.
Damn it, you're good. It's become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh, I think it has more to do with the passive / not crypto interested investor. Because when you bring in an ETF, you're going to get more passive investors. You're going to get more not mutual funds. What are they called? Like money managers and stuff like that who are investing for other people.
Brokers.
You're going to get brokers. You're going to get people investing their 401ks.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's the big deal is the average retail consumer is not going to want to download a wallet, have to worry about storing their private keys and making sure they don't miss a letter and everything's copy and pasted just right and all this. They just want to buy it so they can invest in it. And that's what an ETF would kind of take care of is like the broker.
But that's what I mean.
Take care of all the dirty work in storing and custodial aspect, but the regular retail consumer and institutional investors wouldn't have to worry about all that.
Yeah, I think, but I mean I guess that's kind of what I mean. ETF is like maybe the least path of resistance to getting something in the crypto format
Definitely.
to exist on a traditional stock exchange. And I think, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think that's going to be massive.
Oh yeah, me too.
Once you put crypto into and give somebody the option to diversify with crypto in their mutual fund, and it just shows up
401k
or yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's going to be insane.
Backed and insured. That's that.
Mm-hmm. That's for institutional investors. They're never going to get in until there's some kind of regulation, some kind of safety. It's
they would.
too Wild West right now.
Yeah.
And
I mean, eventually they'll have to get in.
Oh yeah, but
regulation or safety or not, shit is happening.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen on a grand scale until they get in. I think, which is super ironic. It's super ironic that like Bitcoin is the people that originally got into Bitcoin and especially Bitcoin maximalists, they're so anti-financial institutions, but right now we're begging for financial institutions to get involved. So it's just like,
yeah, but I'm not.
It's almost like 10,000 spoons when all you need is a knife.
Yeah.
Or meeting the man of your dreams.
And then meeting
isn't it ironic? Don't you think?
Yeah, it would be ironic if you met the man of your dreams. I would be like, oh shit. Oh, okay, dude. More power to you, but Chris is gonna be pissed.
Little do you guys know, I've already met the man of my dreams.
I told you,
and they're
bro.
right here on this
fucking
podcast.
Married. Yeah. I think that it doesn't have to. I think we're kind of pushing it. So like my dad, my whole life, like the philosophy of my life was like, don't hand jam shit. It never works out right if you try to force something. And I kind of feel that bubbling up again with this, like you're right. I think everybody knows if the ETF happens, if it gets, if anything happens which allows crypto to be traded broadly in the traditional markets in America, it will be a massive boon. But it's, I guess it's one of those kind of things. Do you trade your freedom for security? Do you trade your security for freedom? Would you trade the unregulatable aspects of Bitcoin for some digital currency which is regulated by the federal government and manipulated, hidden, or otherwise tweaked? I don't know.
Well, I think we already figured out that it's being manipulated already.
And then there's that. Like there's I think pretty solid evidence that there's a lot of manipulation going on in both spaces. I mean, just a couple shows ago, we had Deus Ex Machina on here, and I think there's a lot of manipulation going on. I don't know how to prove it. I mean, I guess
in the pudding.
That's like that's kind of the point, is you can't
catch it.
But I don't know. I think it's inevitable, so it doesn't really matter.
What's inevitable? Regulation or Bitcoin?
All of it.
Both.
I mean, it's going to get regulated. You're going to have ETFs. You're going to have,
Fed coin.
I mean, I think at this point, it's proven that it is a legitimate asset class. It's a legitimate asset class. So regulation is.
Why is it proven it's a legitimate asset class?
Because it's lasted over a decade, and it has increased in price over that decade. And there's enough investors globally to, I think, legitimize it.
Okay. I'll go for that. I just,
Yeah, that's my opinion. So I think at this point that, regulation is inevitable. ETFs are inevitable. Institutional investing is all inevitable. But I think everybody wants it now because they want to get their Lambo. But it just doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. These are long.
Well,
these things
a lot of
take
people
time.
already got their Lambos.
True. A lot of people did.
A lot of people
not me.
Lost the Lambo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
a lot of people
a Lambo would be a better investment than a lot of those altcoins. So I hope those people that made a bunch of money from altcoins bought a Lambo, because
at the top
held the value way better.
Reinvested.
Golly,
Cars usually don't hold their value very well, but better than Cardano.
You see Bitcoin triple, and then you break even.
Yeah. So while we're on the topic of funds, exchange traded funds, and index funds, mutual funds, the main difference between mutual funds and index funds, anybody know?
An index fund and a mutual fund?
Yeah.
An index fund follows an index.
In layman's terms, and not use the word in the definition. Okay, so from what I know about index funds and mutual funds, index funds are basically assets in a certain sector chosen by ranking of some kind, percentage, some kind of ranking. Say the top 10 cryptos. Mutual funds are assets in a certain sector that are chosen by a brokerage or some kind of entity like that. And a lot of those, if they're not fiduciaries, they're looking out for their best interest because of commissions. So as far as long-term profits...
Hey, this is a family program?
What did I say?
Fiduciary?
Yeah. If anybody doesn't know what a fiduciary is, they are...
It comes in summer's eve, winter rain.
It's an index mutual fund.
What is?
An index fund?
An index fund is a mutual fund or exchange traded fund designed to follow certain preset rules.
Right. Yeah.
So it can
an index fund is the type of. But that's what I'm saying. I don't think we're not waiting for an ETF. We're not waiting for an index fund. We're not waiting for a mutual fund, because before any of those things happen, it just one digital currency has to get accepted onto the traditional markets.
No, it doesn't.
Well, it'd have to be accepted before you could put it into an ETF.
Gold? You can't buy gold on the New York Stock Exchange. There's a gold ETF. You
can buy gold futures.
Yeah, and in fact, in the gold ETFs, you'll find that you're not buying. There's no physical gold. It's not.
Exactly.
So that's a really good point. So
the
New York Stock
Bitcoin
Exchange,
ETF
if you buy
doesn't necessarily have to be backed by Bitcoin. Now, most of them will.
The futures that are out there right now for Bitcoin are not physically traded, and I mean I use physically, loosely, but when you actually purchase the futures contract, no Bitcoin is ever exchanging hands at all. Like a CBOE, the futures contract that's out right now, when you buy the futures contract, you're just speculating on the price going up or down. CBOE isn't buying Bitcoin. You're not buying Bitcoin. You're just speculating on the price going up or down. That's it. And it's all settled in cash. So which is a lot different from backed, but we'll get there a little later in the show.
I'm interested in backed now. Bag.
I said we'll get there later.
I like the Van Eck one better. I think they have a better shot at it. I think backed has a good shot too.
I think backed will just make it easier for the Van Eck to be approved. Is my opinion.
Why?
Because it'll bring even more legitimacy. Man, that word's tough for me today. Legitimacy to the space, being that backed is backed by ICE.
Well, Van Eck is a major.
I thought
they already have approved ETFs right now.
Van Eck?
Yeah, they have a gold ETF. They have a
yeah, but not a Bitcoin ETF.
That's
the thing.
But does backed have one?
No.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Van Eck already has worked with the SEC and had stuff approved in the past. It's going to be, I think it might be easier for them to get an ETF approved before backed even does.
Yeah, but
I would totally agree. Anybody who's navigated the federal government once before at least knows the process.
The tough part with the ETFs is that it has to be regulated by the SEC, and backed doesn't have to jump through as many hoops because it's just future contracts.
Yeah, but I feel like we're getting ahead of ourselves. You can't have an ETF unless a specific digital currency, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or Monero or whatever, a specific digital currency has to be allowed to be able to be exchanged on some federally approved exchange. So it's some SEC regulated exchange, because the ETF again is just a category of securities. It's just a category of securities. So
and the SEC has already come out and said that Bitcoin and Ethereum are not securities.
Well, they're saying that now, but I think there's a lot right now.
Gold isn't a security, and there's a gold ETF.
Good point.
Yeah, but again, I'm just saying an ETF is just a group of funds.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it doesn't have to be technically security, but an ETF is just a group of funds. It's just a tranche of funds. So
yeah, but you don't necessarily have to trade Bitcoin. You can close in cash on an ETF.
Mm-hmm.
You can track something and close it in cash for trading on that ETF. Does that make sense?
No, what do you mean?
Well, okay. So say, I guess I'm looking at it on the side of options, which is going to make it even more complicated. But say you open an option contract.
Yeah, but with options, you're not actually buying anything. You're literally just buying so with options, you're just placing a bet on a stock.
Yeah, that's a lot like a future.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly it. Exactly. But for an ETF to happen, an ETF would have to have like some LNG stock, some BP stock, some GE stock. It would have to have some Bitcoin in there. So first, Bitcoin would have to be allowed to be regulated, or would have to be allowed to be federally traded.
That's why the SEC has to approve the ETF before it can be traded. This is how I see this playing out in the next.
But I'm saying that's already a step too far. First, it has to approve a specific digital currency to even be allowed to be traded. Then you can put it into an ETF. But until you see what I'm saying? Before you even have a coin that's allowed to be traded on the markets, an ETF doesn't mean anything. You can't.
Well, that's what the SEC would do. Their approval of an ETF would make it regulated to be traded on an exchange.
But why would you need an ETF first? Because if you could trade it as an ETF, why couldn't you just trade it by itself? Like LNG, I can just go buy
institutions aren't going to go on Binance and freaking throw in $70 million to buy Bitcoin and then store that in a wallet.
So how is that different than an ETF?
Because an ETF would take care of that for them. They would be the custodial service for that institution of that $70 million. And an institution isn't going to throw their money in unless it's safe. And that's what an ETF would do. It would be approved by the SEC, which would make it regulated, would make it legal. So they can't even do it without it being legal in the first place, an institution. And then once it's approved by the SEC, institutions can invest in it without throwing hundreds of millions of dollars into some shady exchange like Bittrex or something. Because the ETF would be custodial. They purchase it from Bittrex, they hold the crypto, and then the institutions purchase it from them.
Yeah, but you're skipping a step. So you're saying this institution. Okay, so you're saying that the institution holds the crypto.
No, I'm saying the ETF holds the crypto.
Right. The crypto institution is a fiduciary with your crypto.
Van Eck would hold the crypto.
Right. Okay. So you're skipping the step where a specific digital cryptocurrency is approved.
I think you keep getting hung up on this, that like a Bitcoin needs to be traded like on the NASDAQ alongside with Apple.
Okay. So I just did a little research.
It's a new asset class. It's not going to work like a traditional stock.
So the way around that is exactly what Heston was talking about with the futures. So if the futures are traded on there, which you don't have
so it's an ETF for futures then.
It could be, yes. That is one.
Okay, well that's fine. That's fine because futures and options
have to
not actually trading Bitcoin.
It doesn't have to be a futures though. It can be physically traded Bitcoin.
But I think that's the
how could you think about your Fidelity 401k? Okay? In that mutual fund, you've got multiple ETFs. Okay? You buy a crypto ETF. If it's futures or if it's options that somebody's working off of and they've created a fund based on their results from futures and options, okay, I can see that because like you said, that's a loophole, right? Because still the SEC hasn't said yay or nay on Bitcoin. But you can't have a fiduciary, which means a person who's acting in good faith with your finances. You can't have a fiduciary literally buying or selling any Bitcoin or holding any Bitcoin that you're actually investing in as part of an ETF that's regulated by the SEC because the security or the product is not regulated by the SEC. Does that make sense? That's like, okay, so for instance, let's say 30 round magazines, right? It's illegal to have a 30 round magazine in the state of New York. Okay. So then you want to sell somebody in the state of New York, hey, I want to sell you this gun package. It's got 15 different guns in it. 2 of them have 30 round magazines. You can't do that. So the ETF would be the package of different guns, right? You got an AK, you got an M16, you got an M4, right? 2 of them have 30 round magazines. You can't do that because, see what I mean? The package won't work because the 30 round magazine is illegal. Same thing with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not approved by the SEC, so you could never have an ETF that contained Bitcoin.
Yeah, it might not be I don't know what you mean by approved by the SEC.
So
it's not illegal.
What is it?
It wouldn't be allowed to be included in an ETF that was traded on the NASDAQ or the Dow.
Why?
Because it's not recognized by either of those organizations.
Yeah. What do you mean?
So an ETF is just a box of stocks.
Yes. I mean, we know we went over what an ETF is. We know that.
Okay,
but
so an ETF is just a box of stocks. So for one of the stocks,
why can't they just trade that tomorrow? Why can't the New York Stock Exchange just trading Bitcoin right now?
Right, because
the exchange would have to purchase a bunch of Bitcoin, and then retail consumers or whoever wants to trade it, could trade it. You
can't because it's not regulated by the SEC. The SEC,
you're right, and that's why it requires SEC approval of the ETF, and that's why
the ETF would have to get SEC approval, but before the ETF got approval, the components of the ETF would have to get approval, right?
Not necessarily.
No, because it's included in the ETF, then it legitimizes the asset.
The gold ETFs, how the gold ETFs work, that Van Eck, what was the name of that? Anyways.
Yeah, it's Van Eck.
Van Eck. They actually own the gold themselves for the ETF. So the people buy the gold from them technically, but the ETF is traded on the exchange.
Yep, and from what I know, it will work the same exact way with Bitcoin.
They hold the gold in their own vault.
Yep.
Yeah, but gold is an accepted and regulated commodity.
Well,
Bitcoin will be one day too.
Well, and
that's my whole point. Bitcoin will have to be an accepted.
Well, and that's why they need.
One of the first steps.
I think we're all talking about the same thing here.
Yeah, one of the first ways of gaining that acceptance and legitimacy is a Bitcoin ETF.
We're agreeing in an argumentative way.
That's approved by the SEC.
I don't understand how you can approve a box of something without approving the components of it first.
Because you're approving a box full of assets. And by approving that box full of assets, you're approving the assets within that box.
Yeah, once they approve the ETF, potentially, then the exchange will be like, well, why the hell don't we just pull this bitch on here so we can make some money off of it? And that, since it's been approved, let's list it.
Yep. I mean, we're all in agreement that an ETF would be, the
NASDAQ has already volume. The New York Stock Exchange has already requested the SEC approve 5 ETFs to be listed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but are these ETFs okay? So are these ETFs, because these are tricky? Are they holders? Are you buying Bitcoin? So when I go to Bittrex, I buy Bitcoin, right? I buy physical Bitcoin.
Not all of them. I already know where you're going with this.
Yeah, so in the ETF, if I buy a Bitcoin ETF and it's got some BP stock in it, and it's got some GE, and it's got some Exxon, and then it's got some Bitcoin. In that case, I'm going to buy one share of BP, one share of GE, one share of Exxon, and then in the Bitcoin slot, am I buying a physical portion of Bitcoin, or am I buying the results of someone's trading from an options perspective into a fund that represents Bitcoin? Because that's how gold is traded. Like when you buy gold in your mutual fund, most of them are not, like, you're not buying, obviously nobody's giving you physical gold. You're buying the results of some groups trading in gold. And it's
I would assume it would work the same way as gold, but it would depend on the ETF, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So then you wouldn't. Yeah. So the ETF wouldn't actually give anybody Bitcoin. It would just be. It would be.
Yeah. Well, it depends. It depends on the ETF.
So it probably wouldn't actually change the price of Bitcoin any, or the value of the Bitcoin held.
Except that the fact that ETF would have to purchase the Bitcoin for custodial purposes, because eventually they would have to cash out. When you want to cash it out, They would have to
Not
have
if there was options. If it was options,
not for the options aspect or the futures aspect. But if
that's what I'm saying. If it was futures and options,
those are only certain aspects of an ETF. Some people aren't going to do options or futures, and they're going to want to invest in the underlying asset and cash out one day.
So you're telling me that one of these programs
have that Bitcoin to be able to cash out.
I would like to know which one of these programs are suggesting to people that when you buy the ETF, you get a handful of stocks, one of them which is going to be a digital currency, and you own that digital currency the same way you would a stock. I don't believe that.
Yeah, I don't think it'll work anything like a traditional stock. No.
Well, I mean,
unless you own the keys, you don't own the Bitcoin. Just like when you bought it on Bittrex, you don't own that Bitcoin either. Bittrex still does. Until you take it off that exchange and you put it in your own personal wallet, that's when you own it. Just like a stock. When you
but even in this ETF,
do you really own it, or does the exchange that it's on own it?
Okay, so that's
you don't own it until you cash out.
That's a good point and technicality. So, is any of these programs? I'll just reword this. Are any of these programs submitting the claim that amongst their ETF pieces, right, amongst the securities or amongst the products that are in the ETF, there are something that at some point I could cash out for physical digital currency? And I think the answer is no.
No. Well, that's just like any ETF. If you cash out anything on any ETF, you're not going to get that.
Why?
Are you going to get the stocks?
You get
their money.
I mean, you get the equivalent. Yeah, you get the equivalent of money.
Well, you're going to get the equivalent of money that you had in Bitcoin.
Exactly.
In your ETF. It's the same thing.
They're not going to send Bitcoin to your wallet. They're going to send
they're going to send you the money back, the investment that you made, just like on the stock that was in your ETF. There in an ETF fund, if you have I don't know, Nike, they're not going to send you 4 shares of Nike. They're going to send
4 little pieces of paper that say they're
going to send you $400 or
but okay. So no, I think that's a good point. But if I own an ETF with Nike and in that ETF I'm buying 4 shares of Nike, I own 4 shares of Nike. In what scenario do I own 4 Bitcoin?
Well, when it's a physically backed, and that's the only thing that would be more confusing for me is what the units are going to be on how they're going to sell it. Because obviously, very very few people are going to say, I guess maybe it's easier with cryptocurrency because there's no unit. So if you put in,
exactly, a quarter of a Bitcoin or whatever,
yeah. But it's same. The theory holds true as for stocks as it does in cryptocurrency. I mean, whatever you put in, whatever you make or lose, you're going to get back out returned in cash.
What if it was yen? So what if you had a yen? Because I don't think there's no ETFs in Forex, is there?
I don't know enough about Forex.
Yeah, me neither.
So I think this would be more akin to you buying an ETF of yen and rubles and won and dollars.
I mean, it is a currency, so I would say, it's probably more similar to Forex than it would be the traditional stock market.
Okay,
as far as Bitcoin specifically, when you're talking about other digital assets, they would probably be more akin to,
definitely currency ETFs. The Currency Shares Euro Trust ETF, the Euro Wisdom Tree Dreyfus.
Okay, so that would be interesting then. Okay, so I think that would answer my question fully. How did those work? That's what we need to find out. How does a currency ETF work? Because that's where I'm getting confused. That's where I'm getting convoluted.
There's a dollar ETF for the U.S. dollar.
I'll tell you what I don't want.
What are the components of the dollar ETF?
How to lose money.
I don't know. U.S. dollar ETF. The U.S. dollar ETF allows investors to gain exposure to the U.S. dollar currency without the need for complicated foreign exchange accounts. That's pretty much. This.
Well,
This is all
okay.
US
So
dollar.
perfect. So again, I think that proves my point further. I think that what that's saying
What is your point?
it's giving you exposure to Bitcoin. It's not giving you Bitcoin.
Yes.
You're not buying. You're not buying
Yeah,
Bitcoin.
exactly.
It's
Yeah.
exposure to the market.
Yeah, you're right. But at the end of the day, someone is buying that Bitcoin, and that would be Van Eck for that ETF, or whatever ETF.
No, it's not. It's not
Yeah,
somebody's
they
buying the Bitcoin.
yes,
If it's options trading, then nobody's buying that shit.
Well,
But
just
Van
for
Eck
options,
just-
but not
they're just betting
everyone
on
is
whether
going
it
to
goes
trade.
up or down.
Like the Van Eck would have to have the Bitcoin. Not everybody's going to be using it for options.
I don't think
they
that Van Eck
say
would have to have any Bitcoin.
they will though, because the Van Eck is a theirs will be physically backed. They actually say like Van Eck and Backed are both physically backed by Bitcoin.
Yes.
It's in their proposal to the SEC.
Okay, so explain back to me.
It's
So
backed with two Ks. It's a weird word. I don't know. I don't really.
yeah.
It all
Yeah,
came
I mean,
together.
it was
just
a play on words. So
That's what I
Backed-
want. I want I want an ETF that's name is a gimmick.
I'm Backed. I mean, Backed isn't an ETF. Basically, what it is a way for institutions to invest in Bitcoin in a safe, regulated way. They're also trying to increase mass adoption too. So, what they are, so their parent company is ICE, Intercontinental Exchange Incorporated. ICE also owns the New York Stock Exchange.
Abolish ICE.
They own tons of exchanges.
They
They're
also
the
export
second
people
largest.
to the United States.
Yeah, it's also meth.
I was thinking immigration and customs enforcement.
Yeah. But they're the second largest owner of financial exchanges.
Abolish ICE.
So they started a project called Backed. So they own the New York Stock Exchange, and then Backed is supposed to be like their venture into the crypto space. So a quote from their CEO about what Backed is designed to serve as a scalable on-ramp for institutions, merchants, and consumer participation in digital assets by promoting greater efficiency, security, and utility. There's kind of a lot of fluff, but basically they're trying to do two things. They're trying to increase institutional investing and increase mass adoption of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
None of those to me, all of that sounds super flimsy and like lawyer speak.
Okay, well, let's go deeper into it
talk.
then. Let's go deeper into it. So they want to make it safer and easier for institutions to get involved, right? They also want merchants and retail consumers to get involved with.
But I mean, being honest, like these are like these are so broad. It's like
I don't know if it's broad.
people to be
That's literally like their mission statement.
We want merchants. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you have a mission statement that is so broad, that to me is a red flag.
Isn't a
That's
mission
like,
statement supposed to be broad? Is a mission statement
we-
supposed to be like, okay, well, what we're doing is we're increasing physical delivered Bitcoin derivatives like that? No, a mission statement.
Yeah, that's a mission statement that I'd follow.
No, those are detailed. That's not the mission statement. A mission statement is supposed to be a broad overview of what your outlook looks like. Okay, so let's get deeper into it so you can feel a little bit better, sleep a little better tonight. So they're creating
I'm sleeping like shit.
They're creating an they're creating an infrastructure for institutions to like safely invest in Bitcoin. Because right now, no institution is going to get in this Wild West where you have to buy something on Coinbase or Bittrex or something like that. Institutions, they need to feel safe before investing in such a high volatile asset. So the first thing on Back's roadmap is to create a daily Bitcoin future market, which goes live December 12th. And we're recording this in November, about a month out from when the daily Bitcoin futures will go live. So what sets this apart from the other futures, Bitcoin futures that are out there right now is, like we were saying earlier, it's a physical delivered Bitcoin futures. So ICE's regulated digital asset warehouse is where they store this. So they will purchase the Bitcoins. and they're not cash settled like what's out there right now. So what's out there right now, I think we said that earlier, is you buy the futures contract. You're basically making a bet on where you think the price will be, and at the end of the day, no Bitcoin's changing hands at all. The Bitcoin will be purchased, and you can buy your futures contracts on top of that. You're still speculating on the price, but the Bitcoin is backed. That's why they call it backed. So you receive the underlying Bitcoin. This also, they're trying to provide custody. So basically what they're creating is an off-chain network like Lightning. They're creating like an institutional investors Lightning network. So all the settlements and transactions from these institutional investors, they happen off the chain and then periodically connect with the chain to settle the accounts. So basically what like the reason why this is big is because it's ICE, because they are the second largest second largest owner of financial exchanges. Somebody that owns the New York Stock Exchange and is also trying to own a digital asset trading platform is just it just legitimizes the market and says that like this is definitely going to happen. Institutional investors will get in. This is not a bubble. This is the beginning of something greater than what we're seeing right now.
Okay, but to me, it sounds like they're trying to create an exchange. No, that's not what they're doing. It's similar to an exchange, but it's sounds a lot like an exchange.
Like I said, it's two parts: institutional investors to increase institutional investing, and to increase mass adoption through merchants.
Well, and institutional investors are already planning on. Well, I don't know about.
I mean, some institutions have already gotten in,
like Fidelity and
small.
A lot of these bigger.
We'll hit on the first part, the institutional investors, then we'll go to the
have plans to be involved by the end of next year. They're already in the
Fidelity,
process. And some of the other
and I mean, you've seen Marlboro has like a whole layout for weed cigarettes.
Well, hell yeah, they do.
Yeah,
why wouldn't they?
Smart business.
Why the fuck haven't they done it?
Because it's not legal.
It's not legal yet.
It's legal statewide.
Not on a big enough scale for Marlboro.
Yeah, they're getting their eggs ready, and then
as soon as
it's legal, it's probably the next day.
Everyone, Philip Morris stock is going to skyrocket, and all these can stocks are going to crash. They're going to
be crazy.
Everyone.
All the millennials that were fighting against like big tobacco are all of a sudden going to be like, oh, well, Marlboro's okay.
Yeah. Me and Philip Morris go way back.
They donated a lot of money to the schools, bro.
They'll have a new Marlboro man.
The new Marlboro.
Matthew McConaughey.
He's naked playing the bongos.
Mm-hmm.
I work in Austin now, and so there's like Matthew McConaughey sightings all over the place.
Smoking a Marlboro Red J.
Marlboro Red J. It's smooth and inviting. It's the high that doesn't get you down. I like that. I could be the spokesperson for Marlboro weed.
You should. Should really put in for that.
Philip Morris. Philip on these nuts.
Okay, so since Brandon, you're playing kind of devil's advocate today. I mean, how do you feel about backed? Because you're coming off very anti crypto today.
I'll tell you what I am.
Anti-institution.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm anti-institution. Look, I think for any investment, the main rule that you should have is don't drink the Kool-Aid. And I think too many times in crypto, it's like Bitcoin Cash is coming out. Bitcoin Cash is going to revolutionize everything. It's going to be the new Bitcoin. You're going to love it. Everybody jump on board. And a shitload of people did, and a shitload of people did good, and a shitload of people lost money. And depending on when you got in and got out, it was good or bad. Lightning Network. Oh, Lightning Network's coming. God, once Lightning Network hits, that's going to change everything. That's when everybody's going to be connected on a real level. And okay, that's kind of, I mean, Lightning.
I do recall you saying that it would change everything.
Fuck yeah, I was a huge. Well, I'm telling you,
what's changed your mind then?
There's nothing embarrassing about having learned your lesson after.
Well, wait a minute. What's changed your mind as far as Lightning Network?
Lightning isn't doing shit. It's out there. Lightning is already out there. It's
how long has it been out there? A few months? You expect global long-term change in a few months?
The speed at which everything in cryptocurrency happens.
I think
it's on steroids.
I think you're confusing the price with the infrastructure, the underlying infrastructure of the assets. The price is not reflective of what's going on in the industry. It's really not. It's a bunch of speculation. That's all.
I think that I don't think so anymore. I think the price is. I think the price of Bitcoin is where it is. It's been there for 4 months. It's right around $6,000.
Yeah, but that really is no reflection of Lightning Network being successful or not successful. There's tons of transactions on the Lightning Network right now, but it's a work in progress.
Okay, so
it's not gonna just change the world in a few months.
Okay, fine, but it hasn't really lit my panties on fire. Okay.
Well, it will one day.
Okay.
When that day comes, I'll be the one striking the match.
Yeah, well,
on your panties.
I don't doubt. For some reason, I don't doubt that. But no, okay.
But so no, we still haven't finished with Bakkt, so we should stay on.
Wait, well, you're asking my question.
Your opinion on Bakkt. Yeah.
I just think there's a lot of things that happen in any market, in any industry, that revolutionize, and crypto is the ultimate case study in hooking people and getting them to buy in a fervor.
I disagree. I think you're thinking.
You disagree? BitConnect. You disagree?
Yeah, BitConnect. Yes, I know that, but I think you're thinking way short term. I don't even think you've made it out of the year 2018. You got to remember, this has been around for 10 years.
Yeah, but dude, don't you understand that that's like the easiest way to trick someone.
If you had bought,
that's like the easiest way to trick someone.
If you had bought Bitcoin,
I'm a piece of property, it's gonna be worth $1 billion in like 50 years.
Listen, if you bought Bitcoin in 2000,
$50.
If you had bought Bitcoin in 2010, would you say that it's the master of having people buy in a fervor? Or would you say that if you had bought at the top of the hype, the most current hype?
I think you're confusing me saying that Bitcoin is a fake or a phony. That is totally not true. So I don't want anybody to be confused. I'm not saying that I don't believe in Bitcoin. I certainly do. In fact, I'm becoming more of a maximalist by the day. I think I've chronicled that on the show pretty detailed. What I am saying is that around Bitcoin, there is a massive amount of, like you said, speculation. And that speculation turns into fervor. And that fervor turns into people losing a lot of money or investing in things.
Yes.
I'll
totally give you that. I would say, the crypto space is 90% speculation at this point, for sure.
It's a big casino. Everything is designed to get you to, it is specifically tailored and designed to get you to look at it and put your fucking coins in it.
But what I compare this to is the early .com era. Then it was 90% speculation too. However, if you zoom out in the last 20 years, that's when you see that there was real product and real infrastructure being laid down at that time when all those .com projects were crashing.
But
listen. Yeah, so hear me out.
How do you know which one of these things are pets.com?
Hear me out. Yeah, you don't know which ones of these are pets.com, but the point is that yes, at that point there were a lot of people that wanted to get rich quick, but there were also people that saw that there were good projects being built, like Amazon.com. Okay, and the people that did a lot of research and invested in the products that had bright futures, it paid off handsomely for them. The people that said, this .com thing, it's just a way for people to get all hyped and buy in a fervor. Those are probably the people that lost their ass and then didn't invest anymore because
I think
they
you're
lost
looking at it
faith
black
in
or white, like it's either a fraud or it's not. I'm saying that there's a massive gray space, and the massive gray space is some of these things are probably going to be legit.
Yes.
Some of these things are going to make people millionaires. Some of these
are going to go to zero too.
Broke, yeah.
Most of these will go to zero.
I mean, a lot of this has no interest for me at all. I mean, I'm probably not going to invest in an ETF that has cryptocurrency in it.
I'm just going to buy my cryptocurrency. Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter.
But I don't think it's. I mean, we host a podcast about cryptocurrency. I don't think it's aimed towards us.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I agree, and I think I agree with you both on. I'm not buying the ETF either. I'm buying I would just buy my crypto from, whatever, like my preferred exchange for that specific coin.
I'll make my own ETF called My Wallet.
Yeah, I got my own. Yeah.
So okay, let's.
What I feel is hot this month.
Let's keep going with. Let's keep going with BACT. So we've kind of gone over the first goal of theirs, which is to increase institutional investing by having just a known, trusted name in the space that would trade regulated digital assets.
Garbage. Coinbase. You couldn't apply that to Coinbase right now? Pretty much everything.
No, actually,
how could you not apply that to Coinbase right now?
BACT is very similar to Coinbase. Really,
it's an exchange.
BACT is similar to Coinbase. The one major difference between Coinbase and BACT is the name value. Because
okay, so they have no name value.
Because ICE, is they own the New York Stock Exchange. They're just they're in the back pockets of Wall Street. And if we're talking institutional investors,
they are the pocket.
They're probably way more likely to invest in BACT or buy Bitcoin through BACT than they are through Coinbase. But okay, so the institutional investors, we kind of went over that, and then their second goal is to increase mass adoption. So they've also partnered with Starbucks and Microsoft. The Microsoft partnership, they're basically going to use Microsoft Cloud Solutions to create the open and regulated ecosystem for decentralized assets. Starbucks has been wanting to get into cryptocurrency for a while, but kind of has not found the right way to utilize it. But they want their consumers to be able to buy Starbucks with Bitcoin, and with
but they're just talking about doing it basically an atomic swap. For cash.
Basically, because you're not buying it, you're not buying the cup of coffee with the Bitcoin. Through BACT, you're basically converting it instantly into USD and buying it with USD, and then they would take that Bitcoin and probably immediately sell it. So I don't think that the Starbucks would have any kind of change in the price of Bitcoin, because Starbucks would be immediately selling that Bitcoin. Most likely, as soon as they got it. But I think what it does is just
volatile. But if it's not,
yeah, exactly. If it's stable, then they'll hold on to it. So eventually, if we really zoom out and talk long term here, 20 years from now, they could be just holding on to it because it's a stable store of value. But
or just like the dollar, like they don't. I mean, it's like when you buy a cup of coffee, technically 10 minutes after you buy it, it's either more or less valuable.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that the main takeaway from the Starbucks partnership is just more mainstream awareness and adoption. So, as far as BACT just really makes me feel like just much more sure about this market, really. BACT came out and said, and this is kind of a bold claim, they said that Bitcoin has the ability to greatly simplify the transition of money and has a real potential to become the world's first worldwide currency. That's
what makes you believe any of this? Why? I mean, like,
This is a huge company. They own the New York Stock Exchange.
Okay.
Like
I see.
Bob.
Big company. So big companies. That's who. This is decentralized talk, by the way. So big companies. If it's a big company, it should be trusted.
I did not say it should be trusted, but I said that
it gave a validation for why it should be trusted. Literally, as it's a big company. It
is valid. It's a valid claim that a huge corporation is saying that Bitcoin could become a worldwide currency. I know that the thought. I know it's ironic to think of a financial institution and Bitcoin and all this, but if we want mass adoption, then we might need a nudge, and financial institutions might be that nudge. So there's lots of pros and cons to Bakkt. A pro would be more legitimacy in the market, increase in adoption and awareness of Bitcoin, and the fact that your grandpa could invest in Bitcoin futures in their 401k. But there's also cons. So one thing we haven't kind of hit on is like forks. So if Bakkt and these ETFs.
First of all, let's just take a step back.
Yeah. Okay. We'll step in.
Grandpa, 401k, Bitcoin, futures.
Never gonna happen.
Well, okay. So first of all, a 401k is designed to make you a little bit of money over a long period of time and compound it.
Yeah, maybe grandpa wasn't the right term, but
so grandpa,
middle-aged,
certainly not. First of all, grandpa's cashing out his 401k. Second of all, his 401k is not going to have any fucking futures in it because he's about to die. And second of all, it's not going to have Bitcoin futures. So it's like the futures of a thing that's going to blow up in 20 years.
So if I would have used another word other than grandpa, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
It's a middle-aged person investing in Bitcoin futures in their 401k. Is that okay now?
18-year-old with his first job at a Fortune 500 company.
Go for it. I like that scenario too.
Perfect.
So, okay, what about forks? I think that's one that I was
forks
thinking
are wrong too.
Would be a problem with this whole ETFs and futures and Bakkt. So if Bakkt, if all this ETF, Van Eck ETF and Bakkt, if they're physically traded, then they have to own the Bitcoin. That kind of makes it harder for decisions to be made as far as like upgrades and forks. The community is not really making the decision. It's because it's Bakkt that owns those Bitcoin, for those millions of people. It's not the millions of people anymore. It's Bakkt that owns the private keys, so they make the decisions.
Yeah, so, but that doesn't really matter.
We're back at square one. Corporations making the decisions.
No. Well, I mean, that's part of the whole process anyways. I mean, the more corporations get involved in ETFs and all these funds and everything, the more regulation you're going to get, the more corporations are going to be involved. It's a catch-22. It brings in more investors, but it also centralizes more stuff. I mean, what can you do?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's foolish to assume that smart people aren't going to accumulate more of it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say one thing. It's really interesting to see how this all plays out because you can never really predict it. I could never predict in December we'd even be talking about ETFs or SEC approval or anything like that. At the time, it just seemed like, oh, this is a way for people to send money everywhere and fuck the banks and fuck government and all this, But now it's like, oh my God, okay, this is like a legitimate asset class now, and like huge banks are looking to get involved. Like, what? It's just interesting to see how it all plays out.
It certainly is interesting to see how this all plays out, and we will be here watching same bat time, same bat channel. The Decentralized Talk is wrapping things up for this episode of the D. So be sure to tune in next week where we attempt to interview somebody about something. Hopefully it's interesting. Stay tuned to find out if it's not, or if it is. And if it's not, let us know. And if it is, keep it to yourself. Check us out and be sure to send comments at VTalk Podcast on Twitter and Facebook. Decentralized Talk on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and not Music Coin, because I don't even know if Music Coin's around anymore. Honestly, it's not really uploaded.
They give it a good shot, but we can't even sign in anymore. Maybe one day.
Links to the website in the description below. Stay decent, cryptos.